Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Kingdom Hearts Final Mix. In the last part we properly finished off Wonderland and then went back to Sid to gain access to our next world with new navigation gummies. With that said, we're not moving on to that new world this part. We have some side stuff to take care of, namely Chip and Dale did tell us there's a new cup available for us back at the Olympus Coliseum, but also at this point we're high enough level, we're doing the time attack in the Pegasus Cup is entirely feasible with no issues, so we're going to take a moment to go do that as well. Now, if there is one thing I could say about doing the later variations of the first few cups, it's that at times prioritizing things that aren't your focus can help a lot against the fodder along the way to the notable boss encounters. Say you went for the Dream Sword at the start of the game and thus you're mostly using physical skills at this point, you might want to equip a Keyblade that boosts your MP for these cups just to give you some extra magic range with extra Thundaras or Gramiras at this point, as that can really help against large groups of enemies. On the opposite side, if you went for a more magic-based build on like the Dream Rod route, you might want to prioritize giving yourself a Keyblade that doesn't give you some extra MP, but instead has a longer reach and a higher strength value, so fights against individual enemies, like say the notable boss fights at the end of every given cup, can go a lot smoother. Even outside of Proud Mode issues or grabbing abilities like Leaf Bracer or Second Chance sooner, that's actively why I tend to lean into the Dream Shield route most of the time in this game. While I don't specialize in either form of attack too hard due to that, it also means I gain abilities tailored to the magic and physical playstyles decently evenly across my playthrough. For clearing the time attack of the Pegasus Cup, you get yourself a Dark Matter. But we're not done here in Olympus Coliseum yet. There's a new cup open for us. We can now tackle the Hercules Cup. And like with the other two cups up to this point, if you've done everything we have along the way to now, you're probably going to be a high enough level where tackling this cup your first try is going to be pretty doable. In terms of enemies you can expect along the way that are basic Heartless in this specific cup, you're going to see a lot of Shadows, Barrel Spiders, Gargoyles, White Knights, Pirates, Air Pirates, Battleships, and even I think a seed against 2 or 3 rare Truffles. But there might be an extra surprise or so along the way that we'll talk about when we eventually see it. There is one thing about this cup as well as the cup after this that always throws me off though, and it's actively tied to the Heartless we initially met in Halloween Town. You see, and this is definitely more noticeable in the HG remakes as well as sequels, Heartless will also change art style if the world itself has one for Sora, Donald, and Goofy. In the case of Halloween Town, any Heartless that show up there have their colors dulled and some extra texturing work done to fit the world's aesthetic. Some extra grime, some extra feathering even. And thus, due to that, seeing White Knights look this smooth and yellow and Gargoyles this vibrant always feels weird. Which does kind of tie into something about Kingdom Hearts 1. The Heartless in this game are very universal at large. While many only show up in 1 to 2 worlds, like the Pirates and the Battleships here for instance, but especially after their initial introduction in their home world, so to speak, many could probably show up in earlier worlds and not feel too out of place. Which is pretty neat because honestly, these Heartless are all very strong designs. But it can also lead to some things feeling kind of samey in other regards, if not outright repetitive as you deal with the same Heartless world after world. Hello, search ghosts as of the last 3 worlds or so. Thankfully, this is something that later games, especially Kingdom Hearts 2 Beyond, tackles pretty head-on, as pretty much every world in those games moving forward have like 3 to 4 Heartless entirely unique to it, and they're customized to that world's aesthetics, leading to the enemy cast not only feeling a lot larger, but also a lot more varied, and it actively usually is in practice, too. But again, that's largely because Kingdom Hearts 1 is a very small-scale project compared to pretty much any of its sequels, especially because they just didn't know how big this would get. I should note, though, how this game feels doesn't make it feel bad. It's just something that really sticks out coming back to it as someone who originally started with Kingdom Hearts 2. And honestly, I'm glad they took some real restraint here, because it really does give Kingdom Hearts 1 its own unique game feel compared to not only other games in the same series, but also compared to other action RPGs at large. Oh, wait, it's only 1 rare truffle you fight here in the 5th seed. Oops, sorry, I was wrong earlier. I think I was actively mixing in this with the black fungi seed from the Pegasus Cup, because we just saw that earlier this very video in the speed up. Whoopsie. Prepare for a bit of a wake-up call, though, because the 4th seed is an old face. It's Cloud again, and he's got some new tricks. Not only are his stats drastically raised, but he's also quite a bit more aggressive, and he gets a new attack that he'll use towards the latter half of his health. He gains a version of his Omni Slash limit break from Final Fantasy VII. When he uses that, he'll glow with energy, and his cape takes the form of a wing. He'll then fly around the arena and scream to indicate he's about to dash at you with a slash. He does that 5 times in a row, and while he's doing it, he's completely invulnerable, so focus on dodging. Though, not for nothing, in my experience, He's just as likely to focus Donald and Goofy as he is you. I just get really unlucky in this specific playthrough. Now that we're higher level and have access to it, strike rate can actually be very good in this fight, as you can outrange him outright while you're also invulnerable yourself. I think I do attempt Sora alone before leaving this world here, but if there's a reason I actively really recommend holding off on Sora alone, and especially time attack until you've gained more levels for this cup, it's entirely due to the Cloud fight, because this can take a while depending on how many times he wants to do Omni Slash, frankly. But also for beating him, we get a secondary reward, the Metal Chocobo Keyblade. This is a physical fighter's best friend. This is a long-length Keyblade that boosts Sora's strength by a whopping 9 points, a slight nerf from the boost of 10 points it gave in Vanilla Kingdom Hearts. It also has a whopping 90 points in its recoil stat, so you'll be able to deflect most attacks if you use it. With that said, depending on the player you are, its shortcomings might turn you off from it entirely. For one thing, it's got a 0.1 times crit rate, so critical hits are incredibly rare with it if you like relying on those for extra damage. But also, equipping it outright reduces Sora's MP by 1, so if you like using magic in any form, this is not the Keyblade for you. As we progress through a majority of what remains here in the cup though, let's finally talk about something I briefly mentioned back when we first fought Cloud, his design. While his outfit is ultimately very close to his design for Final Fantasy VII, the cape, bandaged sword, and yellow gauntlet are new, at least to Cloud. They're actively design elements pulled from another character in Final Fantasy VII, Vincent Valentine. According to an interview found in the Kingdom Hearts Ultimania, due to Cloud's ties with Hades in this world's plot, Nomura wanted him to have a bit more of a darker edge to his design. Since Vincent already had the right energy, he just pulled those elements directly off of Vincent and onto Cloud. Nomura also said he would have liked Vincent to be in the game, but I'm assuming they didn't do that for one of 3 reasons. Either time outright, his outright weapon being, a gun, but also, and I think this is ultimately what did it, doing so would have probably led to way too much of a preference towards Final Fantasy VII characters in a game already pretty full of them. As there are in the game period, there are already 5 characters from that game in here, as opposed to 2 from Final Fantasy VIII in Squall and Selphie, and 2 from 10 in Tidus and Waka. As it is, that preference is already there, just it's a lot more noticeable here in 1 than later games when the original cast gets greatly expanded. Show me what you've got. Hercules, wait! Let's go one-on-one. Ah, brother, what a show-off. What are we gonna do? Let him go alone, I guess. Good luck, Sora. I'm not gonna go easy on you. So, fittingly enough, the final boss of the Hercules Cup is, get this, Hercules, and no matter what cup you're playing on, you will always fight him as Sora alone. In this fight, Hercules starts off glowing. That is an invincible, godly aura. But the conspicuous barrel spawning in is probably all the hint you need. Throwing a barrel at him stuns the godhood off of him, somehow opening him up for damage. Just be wary, he can and will reestablish that buff on himself later on, but at that point all you need to do is wait for more barrels to spawn, huh? Hercules is a very ground-based fight, so gliding around can help you avoid some of his strikes, but worth noting many of his attacks give him good movement too, and his attacks hurt. He'll do an outright punch at close range, often as his wake up from being stunned. He can do a headbutt dash from all around the arena that's decently fast, and he can embody the spirit of the Beyblade as we saw earlier, like many other of this game's Heartless, and spin around the arena wildly with his sword. His last 2 attacks are the ones to look out for. One where he jumps and slams the ground, creating a godly shockwave, and one where he effectively does Chaos Blast out of Shadow the Hedgehog. Both of these are easily his most damaging attacks, but they are also what reestablishes his God Mode buff, so be on the lookout in case he starts doing any of them, because you might as well go grab a barrel as it is. He's far from the hardest fight, but his damage can very much surprise you for the point in the game you're at. Keep on top of throwing barrels at him, maybe even an extra one here and there for a secondary stun, and you should do just fine. I, like many others though, have always found it very funny that a barrel is what it takes to take the godhood off of Herc. I guess he just gets so confused by it, he lets his guard down or something. It's always just been very silly to me. Also, I've mentioned before in the LP that the cups are worth doing in general here in Olympus Coliseum for their rewards, or especially for some extra EXP. But if there's a single cup I really recommend doing, it's this one. The rewards are easily the most concrete for a quick playthrough, relative to the point in the game you get them.
Oh yeah! We're the champs!
Wow! And I didn't even hold back!
Now I finally know what you mean about strength of heart. Mine comes from Donald and Goofy.
Come again?
If we stick together, we're unbeatable. Not even Hercules stands a chance. With these guys beside me, I'm ready for anything.
But that's not exactly what...
Of course. Your friends give you strength. Isn't that right, Phil? The three of you together make great heroes. And as a team, I'm sure you can overcome anything.
So we're getting 3 items really fast here. For completing the Hercules Cup itself, you get not only the Hercules Shield, you get the Yellow Trinity, but if you complete all 3 of the first cups, you also get the Olympia Keyblade. Talking about the weapons first, the Herc Shield is one of my favorite shields for Goofy in the game. It boosts his strength by 9 and has a medium size and 60 recoil, making it a very effective tool for him as an offensive combatant. Before I talk about the Olympia's outright stats, though, we might as well mention the fact that there's been a Yellow Trinity taunting us in this very room since our first trip here to Olympus Coliseum. So let's go use that over here. And that is the keyhole for Olympus Coliseum sealed. That is one of the few completely optional keyholes in the game, but if you want to do everything, you gotta do it. So the Olympia, it is just in general a better metal chocobo. It's only a medium length as opposed to the metal chocobo's long length, but it boosts Sora's strength by a whopping 10 points here in Final Mix, up 1 point from 9 in Vanilla. It has a recoil of 90, giving it the ability to deflect most attacks as well, while also not only having a 1x crit rate, it has a crit damage bonus of 2 points here in Final Mix. I believe the crit rate was 1.5 though in Vanilla versus a crit bonus of +4. I love the Olympia, though I'm sticking with the Fairy Heart for the moment, just for its higher MP. Also, we're back in Agrima now, because in the Palace Gates area here, there's a chest I can now grab with the Glide ability. I could have grabbed this immediately after Wonderland, but I wanted to do it after taking care of the Hercules Cup, as there's also a Yellow Trinity in this world over in the Cavern of Wonders I need to take care of. Also, Sora learned Jackpot there. That happens here on level 42 here on the Dream Shield route. The Dream Sword route actually doesn't get an ability there, though. Meanwhile, the Dream Rod route gets MP Rage there. I believe that's something I haven't mentioned yet. There are some levels where only certain Dream Weapon choices actively gain an ability. This actively could be seen earlier in this very LP at level 30, when on the Dream Shield route, you learn Treasure Magnet, but you get no other abilities there on the other 2 routes. You just get the stat boost for the level. Also, because I just used it, I realize I actually haven't talked about Ars Arcanum yet when we got that a part or 2 ago from defeating Captain Hook. That is arguably the best limit break in the game, potentially second only to Strike Raid in regards to range. Ars Arcanum causes Sora to unleash a reaction command riddled combo of 13 strikes against enemies, during the duration of which he is entirely invincible. It's shorter range than Strike Rage, but can do the best damage in the game. Worth noting, the 7th, 12th, and 13th hits are all guaranteed crits too, barring crit rates from Keyblades. It is absurdly good. With that said, it does cost 3 MP, so it's a lot more costly than something like Strike Rate is. Next up, we're heading back to Wonderland, as there is, in fact, a Yellow Trinity in the interior of the ship here, just next to one of the doors just up this ladder. With that said, I'm speeding past all the pirates here, because at this point I'm kind of sick of dealing with them already. This allows us to open up this specific door, giving us access to a few more treasure chests. And this is one that's really worth doing, as one of the chests that's hidden in this room is very helpful. I do find it funny, though, that all that's guarding these really good chests is just a whole bunch of shadows, which even at this point with their boosted stats, don't really stand much of a chance with your upgraded stats along the way. In the chests here is not only a dark matter, as well as an orichalcum in this chest. The green chest on the lower thing here has our next trio of puppies, but that red chest up there is the most important one, as it contains, out of nowhere almost, our next spell upgrade. In here is a Power of Wind upgrading Arrow to Aurora. And Aurora is a more notable upgrade than most other spell upgrades because it actively lets Arrow do damage to enemies. It's actively one of the best ways to get a 100 hit combo on the rare truffle enemies if you can get them into a corner. Next up, we're back here in Traverse Town as there's a yellow Trinity directly behind Merlin's house that allows us to push these blocks, which creates a staircase out of them somehow, allowing us to grab a treasure chest that's potentially been taunting you the entire game. Plus, there's another treasure chest we can grab here that's in the distance that we can grab now that we have the glide ability. Just be wary because it's surrounded by water, and if you fall in the water, you're going to have to swim all the way back to the entrance of the room to get there, but thankfully glide allows you to get back from the entrance of the room to Merlin's house pretty easily, which is unfortunately a trapping I fell for just then. I'd recommend jumping a little bit lower to reach it just so you have less of a fall to worry about. That contains our next trio of puppies. Speaking of which, let's turn in the Dalmatians we've rescued since, Monstro I think was the last time we checked in over here? We have quite the reward set for us here, as we've now rescued enough puppies to get 3 extra rewards from what we had last time. In specific, we are going to earn the reward for 60 puppies returned, which is a Mega Elixir, the one for 72 returned, which is an Orichalcum, and the one for 81 returned, which is the Ultima G. Less than 18 puppies remain at this point. We are getting there. This is also finally the point where I remember there is a postcard waiting for me here at Geppetto's house that I just completely forgot about for like 2 worlds there, oopsie. And thus we can finally go get the reward for getting all 10 postcards in at the mailbox here in the 1st district. And it's worth doing because our reward here is a defense up, which hey, always nice to get some more points there. With that, our business in Traverse Town is once again concluded for now. There's still a few more things to do here later on. And it's time for us to finally move on towards our next world, and thus for the maiden voyage of the Excalibur V3. Now, worth noting, on your first playthrough, if you're not really into building gummy ships at all, if there's a point, I recommend using a pre-built blueprint from like Geppetto or something like that, or an enemy you found along the way. It's this route here, as the route to our next world is where the gummy ship sections can get pretty tight with just the base Highwind or Excalibur. Excalibur, actually, there. Whoopsie. I'm so used to saying Excalibur now that I've completely forgotten. As you can see here, V3 is definitely easily my most capable airship, as not only does it have the turbo function where I can just do a fast boost to skip through level design, but it also has a shield preventing its HP from being damaged for a little bit, too. The gummy ship stuff here, if you really get into customizing it, you can make some, frankly, absurd stuff. Just be careful, though, because there's sometimes if you use the turbo button where the level design doesn't really keep up with you, unless you might run face first into something that's meant to move out of your way at the normal paces. Thankfully, that is something they very much ironed out for the gummy ships starting in Kingdom Hearts 2, as the genre for those, as I mentioned before, slightly shifts from being, say, the equivalent of a kind of slow shoot-'em-up into just outright, like, absurdly fast-paced Star Fox, which is really satisfying. Beyond this gate of panels lies our next world. Welcome to Hollow Bastion. But with that, I'm going to need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 29, we enter easily the largest world in the game. See you guys then.